If you've heard of Chinese history, you've probably heard of the dynastic cycle. A dynasty rises, prospers, declines, and is replaced, over and over for 3,000 years. The usual explanation is cultural. Confucian ideas about the mandate of heaven, a civilization trapped in a loop. That explanation doesn't survive contact with the Song dynasty. The Song didn't repeat the pattern, they fought it. They built the most sophisticated institutional machinery in the pre-modern world, specifically designed to prevent the concentration of power that had destroyed every dynasty before them. And it worked. For 3 centuries, the Song held a system of extraordinary complexity at a coupling level just below the threshold, not safely below, like the Dutch, right on the edge, balanced there by deliberate structural design. That's what makes Song China the most interesting case in the portfolio. Not collapse, not stability, managed fragility. Every dynasty before the Song had the same problem. Power concentrated in aristocratic families. Those families captured the institutions. The coupling ratcheted upward until the system collapsed. The Song's answer was the examination system. Government positions were filled not by birth, not by patronage, but by written examination, open to almost anyone, tested every 3 years. The content was standardized. The papers were copied by clerks before grading, so the examiners couldn't recognize the handwriting. Think about what that means structurally. In Rome, a senator's son became a senator. The node reproduced itself. In Song China, the node was replaced every generation by whoever passed the exam. Decision-making concentration couldn't calcify because the people making the decisions kept changing. It wasn't perfect. Wealthy families could afford better preparation, but it was a structural break on coupling that no other pre-modern civilization had built. The Song also built something no other dynasty had managed to sustain, an independent assessment system, the censorate. Censors could impeach any official, including the prime minister. They reported directly to the emperor, bypassing the normal chain of command. They were explicitly prohibited from holding other government positions. Their entire function was to tell the system what it didn't want to hear. This is a structural attack on the refractive field. In Rome, every layer between reality and the Senate was operated by someone with a stake in the message. The Song deliberately uncoupled the assessment channel from the system it was assessing. It didn't always work. Emperors sometimes punished censors who reported unwelcome truths. But the institution persisted because the Song understood, perhaps not in these terms but in practice, that a system which cannot see itself accurately cannot correct itself. So the Song built structural breaks on coupling. The examination system prevented decision-making from calcifying. The censorate kept the information channels partially independent. But the coupling score didn't sit safely low like the Dutch Republic. It sat at around 5, right on the threshold. What does that feel like from the inside? Constant tension. The Song fought wars they couldn't decisively win. They paid tribute to northern neighbors they couldn't defeat. They maintained the largest standing army in the world, and it consumed most of the government's revenue. Fiscal pressure was relentless. At every point, there was pressure to centralize, to streamline decision-making, to concentrate resources, to let the emperor override the censorate. Every one of those moves would have been individually rational, and every one would have pushed the coupling score above the threshold. The Song resisted, not always, not perfectly, but structurally. The examination system kept refreshing the governing class. The censorate kept reporting problems. The system held. For 300 years it held. The Song didn't collapse like Rome. They were conquered. The Mongols, the most powerful military force the world had ever seen, took 40 years to do it. 40 years against a system that was supposedly in decline. But here's the structural question. By the time the Mongols arrived, had the coupling already risen? The answer is yes, gradually. The examination system was increasingly gamed by wealthy families who could afford decades of preparation. The censorate had been weakened by emperors who preferred compliance to honesty. Fiscal pressure from the military had concentrated extraction. The structural brakes were wearing thin. The Song didn't fall because of the Mongols. The Mongols determined the timing. The coupling determined the vulnerability. A system at 1.6, like the Dutch, absorbs an external shock. A system at 5 and drifting upward has no margin left. Rome shows what happens above the threshold. The Dutch Republic shows what happens below it. Song China shows what happens on it. 3 centuries of managed fragility. Every day a balancing act between the pressures that push coupling upward and the structures designed to hold it down. That balance is not natural. It requires constant maintenance. The moment the maintenance stops, the drift begins. That is perhaps the most important lesson in the portfolio. Low coupling isn't a state you achieve, it's a condition you maintain or lose.